Well, welcome everybody. My name is Joe Massey with Castle & Cooke Mortgage, and I am here with my good friend, Mr. Jared Patterson from First Alliance Title. Quick background on me. I have been a mortgage lender for 22 years and work here at Castle & Cooke Mortgage. We're a direct lender, helping investors, helping primary residence buyers, second home buyers, self-employed folks, just about any type of financing that you need for residential property, single family homes, townhomes, condos, duplex, triplex, fourplex, anything you need for long-term, permanent, 30-year fixed rate financing, that is what we can help with. And I'm joined by my co-host, Mr. Jared Patterson from First Alliance Title. Jared, who are you?
Hey, I'm Jared Patterson with First Alliance Title. I've been in this real estate world for 30 years now, 25 on the sales side. So I worked with over 800 clients in my career as an agent, and then been in the title side the last 5 years. And very fortunate to start investing in real estate at 23 years of age. So I work with a lot of investors. First Alliance Title, we've been around for 10 years. We have 5 offices around town. So our job is to be a resource for you to help you grow your business, help you sit down, give you some tools that you can work with on a daily, weekly, monthly basis to stay in touch with your sphere of influence. And then I love being an accountability partner with a couple of my clients, which is always fun. It's like we sort of have a competition. How many calls did you make today? Mm-hmm. So love to be that kind of a person. So use me as a resource. Love to help out and help you grow your business.
Love that. And for those of you that have not worked with Jared and the team over at First Alliance Title, I would highly encourage you to. I have worked with them for more than a decade, and they do just an outstanding, fabulous job on title, escrow services, complex transactions, simple transactions, just about anything you need on title. They know exactly how to do it. So I'd highly encourage you to reach out and touch base with Jared. Well, let's go ahead and dive in here. So what we are talking about today is an investment strategy, the BRRRR strategy, or the BRRRR method. And so we're going to dive in and talk about this in depth today. And I want to understand, and I want you to think about, why are you here today? Most common thing I hear is, hey, you know what, Joe? I want to learn how to invest in real estate. Or maybe you already have some real estate investments, or maybe your clients already have some real estate investments. Maybe you want to diversify some other assets into real estate. Maybe you want to learn how to buy cash flowing rental properties. Or a big one that I hear, Joe, I want to get involved in real estate, but I want to put as little cash down as possible. Or maybe you have the skills. Yeah, that's right. This is a great thing, right? Putting as little cash down as possible allows you to leverage and get really great returns. Yep. Or maybe you have the skills to renovate a property and you want to use those skills to increase your net worth. So I really want you to think about why you're here today, what you're wanting to learn. Now, what are the most common ways to purchase investment properties? If you watch any type of late night TV, or if you have ever been on Facebook or Instagram, you see ads all the time, or maybe I see ads all the time, so maybe I'm unique, but I see ads all the time on buy this course for 99 ways to purchase properties. Here's how you can purchase properties with no money down, 106 ways to acquire real estate. But it really boils down to really about 3 ways. So the number one most common way to purchase and investment properties is pay cash. And there's some pros and cons to this. Number one, you get great cash flow. You don't have to qualify. You don't have to deal with any pesky lenders asking for bank statements or tax returns or anything like that. So the process is really easy. However, you need a lot of cash. If I want to buy a $300,000 property, I need to have $300,000. And depending on how long I'm going to keep that property, it ties up my cash for a very long time. Now, what about purchasing the property with new permanent financing? I'm going to save up 5, 10, 15, 20, 25% down. I'm going to get a mortgage, make my down payment, and then rent out that property. Now, this is the way most of us bought our primary residence. And big benefits to this, it's a pretty straightforward process, right? You talk to a guy like me, you get approved for your new loan, you save up your down payment, you close on the transaction, and you have a lower cash investment, which is lower than purchasing with cash, which is a great thing, allowing you to leverage and get a better return. However, you have to qualify for the loan, right? You've got to deal with pesky lenders that are going to ask for bank statements, tax returns, things like that. And your cash flow is not as good because now you're making a mortgage payment. And the third way purchase a property with a hard money loan or some sort of short-term financing, and then refinance it into permanent financing. So big benefits here is what we spoke about in the last slide, very low cash down payment, right? You can actually, and we'll show you this in a few moments, you can actually purchase properties with as little as no money down. And this allows you a really excellent opportunity to gain equity. However, there's fewer of these available. They are more difficult to find. You're going to have 2 closings, which a lot of people don't like because you have 2 sets of closing costs. You're going to need more skill, and this is a big one. You really need to be skilled, and you need to understand renovation, and you need to understand real estate and real estate development if you want to use this strategy, and it is more time consuming. So in general, I see a lot of folks start with scenario number 3 when they are newer into real estate and they have more time and less money. Then they move up this way, right? They have more money and a little bit less time. They start financing properties. And then later in their career, they move up this way and they just pay cash for properties and turn it over to a property manager. But what we're going to be talking about today is number 3, purchasing the property with a hard money loan or some sort of short-term financing, and then refinancing to permanent financing. So the steps for this are: number 1, buy the property. Number 2, rehab the property. Number 3, rent the property. Number 4, refinance the property. Number 5, repeat, or as we had on the first slide, the BRRRR method, or the BRRRR method. So buy, rehab, rent, refi, and repeat. What are the things that you're going to need for this strategy? Number 1, you need a property that is below market value where you can add value. So you want something that is below the other comparables in the area that you can do some renovations and add value to that property. You want a good renovation contractor, and you want to decide, am I going to do the work myself or am I going to hire a contractor? So you're going to have to do some renovation in order to make this work. Now, the next step, which is really critical, is you need a really great hard money lender. And a lot of folks will say, well, I don't want a hard money lender because the costs are too high, the interest rate is too high. And we're going to talk about that in a few moments. But what you really want to understand is that the leverage from that hard money loan is going to help you make more money. The people that I know that have utilized this strategy are some of the wealthiest people that I have in my network, and they understand that hard money, while expensive, is leverage, and used properly can allow you to make a heck of a lot more money. And then you're going to need a permanent lender. This is what I do. Also a very critical step, and having the wrong permanent lender can cost you thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. And the last thing you're going to need is a property manager. Or you might say, hey, I'm going to manage the property myself. That's cool. You're the property manager, but somebody has to be managing that property once you rent it out. So let's talk about the process. Number 1, you're going to locate the property. Then you're going to get it under contract and prepare your repair budget. You're going to be going through your analytics of how much is it going to cost to fix it up? What does my inspection look like as I walk through it with my contractor? I'm going to get some bids. I'm going to come up with a scope of work, and I'm going to figure out what is that property going to be worth after I make the renovations. Then you're going to get that hard money acquisition loan. So you're going to go to your hard money lender, you're going to apply for the loan, you're going to have the property under contract, and you're going to go to First Alliance Title at Jared's office and close on that hard money loan and walk out of Jared's office with the keys. That is the buy step. Then you're going to repair the property. And this is one where a lot of people can go off track. That is the rehab step. Then you're going to get a tenant. This is where you're going to work with your property manager, or if you're managing the property yourself, you're going to get that tenant. That is the rent step. Then you're going to call me and refinance that hard money loan. And again, having that permanent lender is a really critical step. This is the refi piece. Then you're going to hire that management company, or if you are the manager, you're going to manage the property yourself. And then you're going to repeat and go all the way back up here and do it all over again. So again, buy, rehab, rent, refi, and repeat. And so then you get to the end and go back and do it all over again. So let's talk about in depth the buy step. So number 1, you want to locate the property that's in a good rental area. What I mean by that is somewhere where you can get really high rents as compared to the price of the property. And you want a property that is underpriced. Oops. that is underpriced. And ways that you can find this might be folks that are getting divorced, foreclosure or pre-foreclosures, wholesale properties, all right? Lots of different ways that you can find properties. And then you want to figure out, can I add value? What can I do to improve this property? Can I add square footage? Can I pop the top? Can I finish the basement? Can I add egress windows to convert this from a 2-bed property into a 4-bed property with egress windows in the basement? What can you do to add value to that property? Then you're going to get it under contract and you're going to analyze this property in depth, and you don't want to mess up with this step. So the first thing you're going to do is figure out that repair budget. All right, how much are you working with? Are you trying to repair this property for $10,000 or $20,000 or maybe $100,000? Then you're going to get your inspection, and you might want to get a couple of inspections. What I mean by that is have a professional property inspector walk through it with you, and then have your contractor walk through the property with you as well, where you're going to start figuring out what are the things that we need to do to this property to make it a good rental. Then you want to get your contractor bids. Now, depending on your hard money lender, they may not require you to have multiple bids, but it might be a good idea. If you have one contractor that you've done a ton of work with, maybe you only need one bid because you know they're going to do a great job. Or maybe you're new to this and you might say, I'm not really sure, so I want to talk to maybe 2 or 3 or 4 contractors. Then you're going to figure out that scope of work, and you're going to work with your contractor, and you're going to work with your hard money lender, and you're going to work with the appraiser, because that scope of work is really going to break down what are we spending, what are we doing, what do we think this property is going to be worth after we've completed all of these renovations. Continuing on the buy side, if you find a property like this, this property looks to be in pretty good shape. Now, we haven't seen the inside of it, but just from a quick glance, I bet the inside is okay. This is not the type of property that you want for this strategy. You want something that looks like this. Now, this is my house. Jared took this picture of my house. This is where I live. All right. It's got broken windows. It's got busted porch. It's got foundation issues. All right. You can see me up here peeking out here saying, hey, Jared, why are you taking a picture of my house? All right, this is what you're looking for. You're looking for a property that is in a little bit more busted condition, that you can go in, that the other homes around it look like this. The other homes are in really great shape, but this one is in really bad shape for the area, and you can do some renovations, you can add some value, make some improvements, and that's going to increase the value of the property compared to the other comparables in the area. Then you're going to get that hard money acquisition loan, and there's a lot of variables to this. So the first thing your hard money lender is going to ask you is, what is your ARV? And that is the after repaired value. And this is where that scope of work is so important. You're going to break down, this is all the work we're going to do. This is how much we're planning to spend. This is how much we're acquiring this busted property for. And when we fix it up and it looks like this, we think it's going to be worth what price? That's the after repaired value. And how's that determined? By the hard money lender's appraiser. And then you're going to want to know what loan to cost and what loan to value does your hard money lender go up to. So there's a lot of variables on this, and a real common one that we see that we're going to walk through an example in a few moments. Many hard money lenders will loan you 70% loan to value based on that after repaired value up to 100% of the cost, meaning they'll fund the purchase price, they'll fund the renovation, and they'll fund your closing costs. So this can be a true no money down loan, okay? Other hard money lenders might lend 65% loan to value, but they're only going to lend based on 90% of the after repaired value. This can be potentially no money down if you've got a really strong deal. Other hard money lenders, I see this one commonly, will lend you 75% LTV based on that after repaired value, but not to exceed 90% loan to cost. So this has you doing 10% down, which can still be very profitable. Or there might be other ones that are 90% LTV on the purchase price. So you're just putting 10% down and then you are funding the renovation out of pocket. This one's real common that I see for a lot of flip investors. Most common one I see for this BRRRR method where folks are looking to build a rental portfolio is this first one, 70% LTV. Now, how do the costs compare? All right, costs are going to range anywhere from 0 points to 4 points up front. And rates are going to range anywhere from 9 to as much as 15%. And generally, the higher that loan to value and the higher the loan to cost, so the more money the hard money lender is loaning you, the higher the rates and fees, which makes sense, right? Jared, if I'm going to borrow $5 from you and I'm going to ask you to loan me $5 against my car, and my car is worth $25,000, you're going to say, yeah, you know what? I'll loan you $5. I'll charge you a really low rate, really low fees, because if you don't pay me back, I'm going to take your car. But I might say, Jared, I want you to loan me $30,000, but my car is only worth $25,000. And you might say, I'll do that because I really like you, Joe, but I'm charging you a heck of a lot more interest, a heck of a lot more in fees, because if I have to take that car back, I'm going to lose money, right? So
more
in
risk,
general,
higher rates,
the more
higher
the hard
fees,
money
right?
lender, that's right. Higher leverage equals higher rates and higher fees.
Yep.
But what else does higher leverage equal? Often higher returns. So we're going to talk in depth about that here in a few moments. Now let's talk about the renovation piece. And this is where we can see a lot of people go sideways. And Jared, you see a lot with wholesalers, a lot with fix and flippers. Do you ever see renovations go sideways?
Oh God, yes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
More often than not, to be brutally honest.
That's exactly right. So this is a key point where you want to make sure you're really on top of this. So number one, you want to get started immediately. All right. Hard money costs are due every single month, and you might close on that property. You walk out of First Alliance Title, you've got the keys, and you might say, well, I'm going to start my renovation in a month or two whenever I get around to it. Well, guess what? Hard money interest is accruing every single day, and that interest is going to start eating into all of your profits. So you need to start immediately. And you need to know exactly how much your loan costs you every single day. Let's say you have a $300,000 hard money loan at 15%. That equates to $123 a day. So if you are not working on that property and that property is just sitting vacant and your contractor's not over there, guess what? It still costs you $123 on Saturday, on Sunday, on Labor Day when nobody's working. Every single day it costs you $123 a day. So you need to understand that and make sure your crew is out there doing their work as quickly and efficiently as possible. Then you need to manage the contractor, or if you are the contractor, you need to manage yourself and stay on track. And then you're going to work with the hard money lenders for your construction draws. They're going to help you verifying that the work has been completed, and we're going to advance you your renovation draws as you get to 10% completed, 20%, 25, 40, 50, 60, 70% completed. And don't forget to factor in your miscellaneous carrying costs, such as insurance, utilities, and HOA dues. This is something that often gets forgotten, that these costs add up. All right, and make sure you're factoring that into your overall expenses on a monthly basis. Now, you're going to complete your renovation and it's going to be time to rent out the property. You want to have a good estimate of what that property is going to rent for. Now, how do you do that? My favorite way is to call other landlords in the area. Drive around and look for for rent signs and call those landlords and say, hey, how much are you charging for rent? You can also look at Craigslist listings. This is not as exciting as it once was. But the four-letter word of real estate, you can go to Zillow. Zillow has an outstanding rentals estimate, which they invested millions of dollars into that, and it actually gives you a really, really good estimate. Another website I really like is rentometer.com. You can go to Rentometer, type in your address, your bedroom, bath count. It'll give you a really solid estimate of what you can rent that property for. The other thing I like to do, I call my property manager. Hey, Eric. It's Joe Massey. I'm looking at 123 Main Street, 3-bed, 2-bath home. How much do you think it'll rent for? In less than 30 seconds, he can give me a really, really solid answer. So also tenant placement. If you're not working with a property manager, but just a tenant placement service, they're going to give you really good advice on what you can rent that property for. And you want to have a good tenant screening service ready to go. Now, if you've got a property manager, they've already got that built in. Or if you have a tenant placement service, they're already going to handle that for you. But if you're renting the property yourself and finding the tenant yourself, make sure you've got that tenant screening service ready in order to pull their credit, do background checks, things like that. If you decide to find the tenant yourself, that's fine. But again, have that tenant screening service ready to go. Or are you going to work with an independent placement service? That's a great way that you can get the tenant, move them in, pay a fee to that tenant placement service, but then you're managing the property ongoing. Or my favorite, I like to work with a property manager. I like to buy properties, take the keys over to my manager's office and say, here it is, please rent it out. Let me know if you have any problems. But completely up to you. There's pros and cons to each one of them. Now you've got the
Send me
property
my check, right?
That's exactly direct deposit. Don't even bother with a check. Just direct
Exactly.
deposit it.
Right on.
Now, the next step, you've got the property rented. It is time to refinance it and get that permanent loan. And it's really important that you have a lender that understands this strategy. I have done so many loans where I have seen clients work with a lender for 3 months, 6 months, one time 18 months, and they could not get this loan closed. And they called me and said, Joe, I'm so frustrated. I don't know what to do. And I said, well, let me take a look at it. And we closed on their refinance less than 2 weeks later. So you need somebody that this is not their first rodeo. Have they worked with your hard money lender before? Do they have any seasoning requirements? That means, is there a restriction on how long you have to own the property before you can do a refinance? Some lenders require that you hold the property for 2 years before you can refinance. My company, we don't have any seasoning requirements, right? You can buy this property with a hard money loan. If you fix it in 1 day, we will give you a loan the very next day to pay off that hard money loan. So you want to understand, what are your permanent lender's seasoning requirements? And then, do their underwriters understand the appraisal requirements? And do their appraisers understand the underwriting requirements? You want somebody who has done this before and knows how to do it. And you want to find somebody who will lend you up to 75% of the loan to value of that new appraised value. Now, this is not the same as the ARV, because the ARV was completed before you did the work, and we're guesstimating what is this property going to be worth in the next 60, 90, 180 days after the work is completed. Once you're doing this permanent refinance loan, we're going to appraise the property. You're going to get an appraisal to determine the value, and then closing costs for that refinance can be included into the loan, which is, of course, an important piece, so you're not having to come out of pocket for any additional costs. Now, once you complete that refinance, the last step is to repeat. And what you would do here is hire a property manager. If that's important, you're going to have to pay the property manager, on average, 10% per month. But the best part, there is zero active management on your part. Like Jared mentioned earlier, hey, just send me a check. Or in my case, just give me a direct deposit. I'm not even going to look at it. All right. And they're going to deal with all tenant turnovers, evictions, any issues that come up, neighbor disputes, etc. This 10% is my favorite expense that I spend every single month, because I pay my property manager to be a gigantic Advil for me. I have no headaches. They handle all the headaches. In exchange, they take 10% of the rents, but it is worth every single penny. But just because that's the way I do it doesn't mean that you have to do it that way. The next thing you could do is manage the property yourself. Here's the big benefit. That is 100% free, which means you are going to make more money. But with more money, that comes with more hassles, maybe. All right. If you have a great tenant who pays their rent every single month and there's never any problems with the property, maybe you're getting less hassles. However, maybe not. The whole reason you're paying the property manager in scenario number one is so that they deal with all the issues. If you're managing the property yourself, you're going to deal with turnovers, evictions, issues, repairs, whatever else might come up. And again, you're going to make more money, but what is your time and your mental health worth? For me, this gigantic Advil of 10% is worth every penny. But that's a big question for you, or if you're an agent helping your clients, it's a question for your clients. And then after that, save your profits each month, and then go out and do it again and again and again. So let's pause there for a minute. Any questions on the process? Or Jared, anything you want to add? This is much more complex than just simply purchasing a property. It's much more complex than paying cash. So I want to pause and see what questions you guys have.
Yeah, Joe, you said it earlier. I mean, the big thing with this process is you just have to be really organized and
Yes.
and hit the ground running when you do it, because that, like you mentioned, that $123 a day it costs to carry that property, it adds up really, really quickly. So if you're not looking at that very closely, all of a sudden your costs can get out of hand really quickly.
Yep, you're exactly right. You are exactly right, Jared. So now, let's take a look here. Will a hard money lender loan money to a client that hasn't owned a property for themselves but wants to get into investing? Generally, yes, but that would be a question for the hard money lender. I know a lot of hard money lenders that do not require any experience. Now, if you have no experience, guess what they might do? They might charge you higher points or higher interest rate. But yes, you absolutely do not have to have a ton of experience. You can do this if this is your very first time. So that's a great question.
In that situation, you'd really want to make sure that if they have a contractor that they may work with, that may help you in a situation, because they know if there's a certain contractor out there doing the work, that it'll get done in a timely fashion. They may give you a little bit of break on the points and the interest rate. So that's why having good relationships as part of that whole process is really key.
You're exactly right. You're exactly right. Let's look at a sample property. So let's say this property has a purchase price of $225,000. And this property needs $30,000 of renovation. After fixing up the property, that after repaired value is $380,000. And this property can rent for $2,700 per month. Okay. Property taxes of $1,900 a year, insurance of $1,100 a year. Let's assume 5% vacancy, and annual repairs and maintenance roughly $1,800. Now we're going to get a hard money loan that's going to cost 4% at a 15% interest rate. So basically the most expensive hard money loan, with a payment of $3,325 on a monthly basis. And they will loan up to 70% of that after repaired value and up to 100% loan to cost. So we've got a lot of important details here. And one really important point that I hear a lot of feedback on, well, Joe, this is a great scenario, but these properties don't exist anymore. And that's true, except for all of the ones that are out there. And we're going to talk about more of that later. This scenario is actually one that I discussed this precise loan with a client yesterday. He bought this property 6 months ago, has completed the renovation, and called me to complete the refinance. So this is a real transaction that he bought off the MLS 6 months ago, called me yesterday to go through the refinance. So this is a real transaction, and we're going to show you some other ones that are real transactions that are occurring in today's market. So up here in the top right, we've got the same details from the last slide: price, renovation, ARV, rents, taxes, insurance, vacancy, repairs, and hard money payment. So purchase price in this home, $225,000. Renovation, $30,000. Closing costs to that hard money lender, $12,000. We're going to sum all of that up, $266,000 total loan amount. Now, the down payment needed going into First Alliance Title, getting the keys, $1,000. The reason that is $266,000 is 70% of this ARV. But if we add all of this up, it is $267,000. So you have to bring a whopping $1,000 down payment. They go through and they do the rehab, and it takes 2 months to complete that. Then they call me and they say, all right, Joe, we're ready to do our refinance. Outstanding. We appraise the property. We pay off that existing hard money loan of $266,000. We include the closing costs into the new loan, and that new loan amount is $271,000. So total investment into the refinance, $0. Now, a really important point is figuring out what was the total investment into this transaction. So $1,000 is the down payment at closing. $0 is the down payment at the refinance. They had to make 3 hard money loan payments, which is $9,970. So it's at $3,325 times 3 months. And they had $1,000 of miscellaneous carrying costs: the electric bill, the water bill, insurance while they were constructing the property, etc. Total investment, $11,975. Now this property rents for $2,700 a month. Payment, principal, interest, tax, and insurance, $1,645. So they have monthly cash flow of $1,055 on this. That is an annual cash flow of $12,660, but they have expenses for taxes, insurance, vacancy, repairs. No, excuse me. Taxes and insurance are already included in the payment, but they do have expenses for vacancy and repairs. So annual expenses of $3,600, net cash flow $9,060 per year. So their cash on cash return is a return of $9,000 on an $11,975 investment. That is a 75.6% return. Now, Jared, let me ask you, your 401k, your IRA, you're getting at least 75% return in the stock market, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Not even close. Not even close.
Not even close.
Right? So if you could do this, would you repeat? Would you do this again, Jared?
All day, every day.
Yeah,
I agree. Sundays.
Yep. So there's a question from Iris. Is there a specific name for the loan someone would ask for when wanting rehab money as well? Yes, you would ask for a hard money renovation loan. So just talk with your hard money lender and let them know that you want to finance in the renovations right there into the transaction, and your hard money lender will help you with that. Great question. So would you repeat this? I would say yes. You're investing $11,000 and you're making $9,000 in the first year. How much money do you make in the second year? Another $9,000. How much money do you make in the third year? Another $9,000. The fourth year, $9,000. So every single year, you get a 75% return. So you only have to hold this property for a year and 3 months in order to break even on your total cash investment. And let's not forget, you've still got what? $109,000 of equity.
I'll tell you what, Joe, for that, for the amount of rehab cost, $30,000 for that property, to increase it up to $380,000 was incredible.
They got a really good discount, right?
Yeah,
they got a really good discount. This was a divorce, I believe, or maybe an estate sale. But they got a really, really good discount on this property. And that's part of what makes this work, is you have to be skilled in finding properties that you can get for a discount. But what if you can't get as much of a discount? Let's look at this exact same sample property, but let's say it's more expensive. And let's say the renovation costs more. So now we're paying $15,000 additional for the property, and we're paying $10,000 additional for the renovation. Nothing else changes. So purchase price $240,000, renovation of $40,000, closing costs of $12,000. My total loan amount doesn't change, $266,000. Walking out of First Alliance Title with the keys, I have to bring Jared a check for $26,000 because that's how much my loan amount is less than my purchase, my rehab, and my closing costs. I'm going to do my same rehab that takes me 2 months. After that renovation is completed, I'm going to call Joe over at Castle and Cooke Mortgage to do the refinance. We're going to pay off that existing loan, finance in the closing costs, give you a new loan of $271,000, cash needed for the refinance, $0. What is our total investment? $26,000, $0 for renovation, 3 hard money loan payments, $1,000 in miscellaneous carrying costs. We've invested $36,000, almost $37,000. Now our monthly and annual cash flow remains exactly the same. We're still making $9,000. So our cash on cash return is that same $9,000 return, but now we've invested 3 times as much money. We've invested 3 times as much money because we had to pay a higher price and we had a higher renovation budget. That is still a 24.5% return in year number 1. So it takes us 4 years to break even on our cash, but let's not forget, how much equity do we have? $109,000. So we have tripled our return in equity, and we're getting a 24% cash on cash return. So Jared, if you gave me $36,000 and I put it in the stock market and I said a year from now, I'm going to give you $9,000 cash and I'm going to make sure the stock is worth $109,000 and you're going to get triple your return. Is that a good deal, Jared?
Yep.
Yeah.
Hey, Joe, there's
Would you
one thing that you said earlier is you said, hey, I'm going to make 9,000 the first year, make 9,000 the second year. If you raise your rent by 5% a year, that's an extra $450 in that second year. So it's actually making a little more money.
That's exactly right. So would you repeat? Would you do this again?
Absolutely.
I would too. I would too. Now, what about we say, you know what? I want a cheaper hard money loan. That 4 points, 15%, that's just too much. That's just too expensive, Joe. I'm going to shop around and I'm going to find a cheaper hard money lender. Okay, cool. So we're going to find a hard money lender that's going to charge you 2 points, 10% interest, and they're going to loan you 90% loan to cost. Purchase price, same price, $225, $30,000 renovation, $6,900 in closing costs. We've cut the closing costs almost in half. Our total loan amount, $235,700. Because remember, they're only going to lend us 90% of the total cost. Okay. At closing, we're bringing $26,200. We're going to do our renovation. Once that renovation is complete, you're going to call me to refinance. We're going to pay off that existing loan. We're going to finance in the closing costs. You're only going to have a loan of $240,000. Your total cash to do the refinance, $0. You now have your $26,000 investment, $0 at the renovation, $5,900 in hard money interest payments. So you've cut your interest payments almost in half, $1,000 of miscellaneous carrying costs. You're investing just over $33,000. What does that do to your cash flow statement? You're now making more monthly cash flow because you have a lower loan amount on that permanent loan. Times 12 months minus expenses, you're now making $11,640. Your cash on cash return, you're making $11,000, but you had to invest $33,000. So you're getting a 35% return. Now, compared to scenario one, you were getting a 75% return. So Jared, let me ask you, we got a cheaper hard money loan. We paid less points, less interest. How come we're not making as good of a return?
You're financing more with this.
We put more money down.
Oh,
right? We had to invest more of our own cash.
Yeah.
Because we invested more of our own cash, we're not getting as good of a percentage return. But 35%, would you do that again, Jared?
For sure.
Absolutely. I would too.
Yeah.
All right. So not telling you that you should have the most expensive hard money loan or the cheapest hard money loan. You just want to understand that it can vary. And I saw a question here. Oh, you've got that put in there. Thank you, Jared. All right, let's keep going. Let's look at one more scenario. What if we've got the same price, we've got the same renovation, same ARV. We walk out of Jared's office with $1,000 total investment to get the keys. We do our renovation. We call Joe and say, hey, we want to refi this property. And whoops, our appraisal comes in at $350,000. So it is $30,000 less than that estimated 380 ARV. Well, what do? We still have to pay off that existing loan of $266. We're still going to have closing costs, but I can only give you a loan now of 75% of this $350, right? Now we're putting in $8,500 at the refinance. Total investment, $1,000 to buy, $85 to refi, $10,000 in interest, $1,000 in miscellaneous, $20,000 total investment. Our cash flow statement remains roughly the same. It's a little bit better cash flow because we have a little smaller loan. So now we're making $9,720. That cash on cash return is $9,720 into $20,000. That is a 47% return. So Jared, I was off on my appraisal by 10%. That's a 10% error, but I'm still making 47%. So is there some margin for error in here and I can still make money even if I screw something up?
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. And would you repeat? Would you do that again? Or would you say 47%, not good enough, I'm never doing another one of these?
Yeah, obviously, it's a really nice number.
Yeah, I agree. I'd still do another one of these. So let's look at one more scenario. And I hear this a lot. Folks say, Joe, I don't want to pay a hard money lender 4 points and 15%. That is highway robbery. I'm going to pay cash. Or my favorite that I hear, I've got a HELOC, so I'm going to be my own hard money lender. Okay, totally cool. Purchase price in the home, $225,000. Renovation, $30,000. Closing costs, $1,500, because even if I pay cash, I have some closing costs. Total loan amount, $0. It's going to cost me $256,500 to buy this property. I'm going to go do my renovation, which takes me only 2 months. After that renovation is completed, I'm going to wait 4 months in order to have owned this property for at least 6 months. Now, this is actually new. In the past, you had to own this property for at least 6 months before you could take cash out of it. Guess what? Now you have to own this property for 12 months before you can take cash out of it. So it takes you 2 months to renovate it. Then you have to hold it for 10 months, and then you can take cash back out of it. So you call me after you've owned it for a full 12 months, all right, which is your 2 months of renovation plus 10 months of just letting it sit there. Now we're going to pay off that existing loan, which is $0. We're going to give you, or you're going to have $5,500 in closing costs. We're going to give you a new loan of $262,000. So you're going to walk away with that $256,500. So how much did you invest? $256. How much did you get back? $256. So you invested $256, you got back $256. You had $1,000 in miscellaneous carrying costs. But what is this $5,130? That is actually the amount that you lost in interest or paid in interest on your HELOC for that time period that you did not have access to that money. And now that it requires 12 months, this is actually $10,260 when you have to hold this property for 12 months. And you say, hey, I'm going to rent this for $2,700. My payment is $1,597. My monthly cash flow, $1,103 times 12 months minus my expenses. I am making $9,600 per year on my initial investment of $6,130. That is a 157% return with one really, really big problem. You don't get this return until you've owned the property for a minimum of 12 months. You are tying up your money. If you go this route, you are tying up this $256,000 for that minimum 12 months. So would you repeat? The answer to that, maybe. 157% return is really good, but I don't get that return until I've owned this property for at least 12 months, right? So hopefully that's making sense for you guys. I do see we've got a question here. If the rehab ends up costing more than the original amount, will the lender approve more, or do you need to use your own funds? They absolutely will not give you any advances. You need to have your cash in the bank in order to cover any cost overruns, which actually we're going to talk about, I believe, on the very next slide. That's exactly right. So big benefits of doing this. You can get a great rate of return, very little cash into the deal, as low as 0%. That is why many people do this, because they want to invest as little as possible. This gives you the ability to purchase more and more properties and get good cash flow with very little investment. However, it's more difficult to qualify for the loan because you're qualifying for the hard money loan as well as the permanent loan. There is less equity in the property at the beginning and much more leverage on the investor. Vacancies have a much higher impact, right? While that property is vacant and you're doing the renovation, you still have to be making a hard money loan payment, and you might not have to put any cash into the deal, but you need to have a good amount of cash in order to qualify for the loan. Most notably from the last slide, if your renovation goes over budget, your hard money lender is not going to give you that money. You need to have that money in the bank and be prepared to cover those additional renovation costs. And the most important point is the appraisal is the key determining factor on the approval of the loan. You need to be prepared to bring some money to the closing, and you should expect to invest anywhere from 3 to 15% into the transaction. So these scenarios that we've gone through are the best case scenario. Your real world results may be different. All right? There's a number of factors that can affect your results, and most importantly, you need to be prepared to put cash into the transaction depending on your your appraisal and depending on your approval terms. So that's such a great question. I'm glad you asked that. Now let's run through the biggest feedback that I get in this presentation. These deals just don't exist anymore. Jared, do you hear this? That people say there's no investment properties, there's nothing out there, you can't make money in real estate. You ever heard anybody say that lately?
Once or twice a day.
Exactly. I hear it every single day. One of my great friends, I had breakfast with him this morning. Whether you think there are deals or you think there are not any deals in this market, either way, you're right. I'd like to point this out. He said this 10 years ago. You know why? Because 10 years ago, people kept saying these deals don't exist anymore. And that's true. They don't exist anymore except for all of the ones that we close. And the scenario that I showed you is a transaction that I looked at yesterday. All right. So these are absolutely out there. Yes, you might have to work to find them. Yes, you might have to be really skilled, but they are absolutely out there and do exist. So let me show you a couple of sample transactions. So 2.1 months of inventory, not that long ago. Purchase price of $150,000, 234 ARV, 4-bed, 2-bath, wholesale transaction. They paid $150,000, 20 grand in renovation, 11 grand in closing costs, total loan amount $163,800. This was not a no money down deal. This is what I would call a low money down deal. They invested $17,300. They called me to complete the renovation, or pardon me, they called me to complete the refinance. Closing cost of $3,600. New loan amount was $167,400. They had to make 2 hard money loan payments. Total investment was $20,860. This property rents for $1,950 minus a payment of $997 gives them annual gross cash flow, monthly gross cash flow of $953 times 12 months minus expenses. They are making $9,000 a year on a $20,000 investment. That is a 43% return. A 43% return in what I would call an unusually tight seller's market. All right. So these transactions are still out there. Next one of my favorites, 1.9 months of inventory, $178,000, $48,000 in renovation, $12,000 in closing costs, $238,000 loan amount. They brought no money to the closing. All right. They completed their renovation, called me to do the refinance. We paid off that existing loan. Closing cost is $6,000. New loan amount $244,000. They made 3 hard money loan payments of $5,949. That was their total investment. $5,949 was their total cash into the deal. Now check this out. It rents for $1,900. Payment is $1,585. Monthly cash flow of $315 times 12 months minus expenses of $1,900, $1,880. Their cash on cash return is $1,880 on just under a $6,000 investment. That's a 31% return. But $1,800 a year, you might say, Joe, that's an awful lot of work for $150 a month. And I would say you're exactly right. But what I want you to notice in this picture, look how big this lot is. All right, you can't see all of it. This was a double lot. So they bought this property, split off this left-hand side of the property and sold that for $275,000 to a developer. So they put no money down, $5,900 in total carrying costs. They're making $150 a month, and they sold this side for $275,000. Jared, if you invested $6,000 and got a $275,000 return, is that a good return on your investment?
Just a little bit.
I'd say so.
Hey, there's a great question. Said, when you get the new loan, are you able to borrow into the ARV, or is it just to pay the hard money loan?
Yeah, so you can just pay off the hard money loan. If you want to take cash out of the property, that's where you would need to hold that property for that minimum 12 months. So that's the benefit of having that hard money loan, is that hard money lender's funding all the renovation and allowing you to get the maximum leverage from me rather than having to wait 12 months in order to take cash out of the property. Such a great question.
Yep.
Now, what about this one? Another one of my favorites. A couple months ago, 1.8 months of inventory, $190,000 price, $25,000 in renovation, $7,600 in closing costs, down payment, $0. Took them a couple months to do the renovations. They called me to refinance, financed in the closing costs. They made 2 hard money loan payments of $4,300, which was their total investment into the transaction. Monthly rent on this property is $1,900 minus $1,300 for the mortgage payment, $595 a month times 12 months is $7,140 minus annual expenses, net cash flow $5,240 a month. Excuse me, $5,240 a year. Their cash on cash return is 121%. And let's not forget, this has a $303,000 value and a loan of $227,000. So that is what, $76,000 of equity?
Hey, Joe, and one of the other things that you didn't mention in that previous transaction, and I used to do this all the time, is if I found a house with that situation, I would come in and I'd put a modular home on that lot versus selling it. So now I literally have 2 properties. I've taken it and I literally, because I don't have to go out and find another piece of ground, another piece of dirt. I've got my dirt. Now I've got 2 properties and I've literally invested. And in that situation, I'm probably putting about 22% into it altogether and have a brand new house sitting on top of it.
That's exactly right. That is a structure that works so well. If you can pick up something with that extra lot, makes a huge difference in your long-term overall return. You are exactly right.
Love those.
So is the BRRRR strategy right for you? Only you or only your client can answer that question. The best option is completely up to you, completely up to the client, and you should carefully review all of the following areas to make the decision. Look at your personal financial situation. Look at your risk tolerance. Look at your ability to qualify for the new loan. What is your asset position? Do you have cash in the event you have cost overruns? What are your investment goals, tax implications? How are you going to manage the property? And what is your exit strategy? All of these things are very important things that you want to look at to make sure, and is this a good strategy for you? All right, guys, that is everything I wanted to cover. As a final reminder, here at Castle & Cooke Mortgage, we do this BRRRR strategy with conventional loans. We can also help your clients with FHA, VA, USDA loans, investment property loans, purchases, refinances, first-time home buyers, repeat home buyers, second homeowners. As I mentioned earlier, we do permanent residential financing for properties of all types of clients, such as first-time buyers, repeat home buyers, investors, and our job is to help with any of those primary residence loans, any of your investment properties, or any type of long-term permanent residential financing. And Jared, one more reminder, who are you? Why should we call you?
You should call me, and Joe will send you these slides, by the way, after the fact, and we'll include my slide in there. But basically, guys, is I love helping figure out ways to grow your business. Remembering I was you for 25 years. I started investing in real estate at 23 years of age. Literally had 38 doors at one point. So know a little bit about this business and want to help you grow your business and at the same time earn your title business. We send out on a weekly basis. We create flyers for you to keep in touch with your sphere of influence and help them stay engaged in the market. And secondly, we have an app that we have, which also gives you additional materials. Again, to stay in touch with your sphere like you are the expert in the market. So let me help you out with that.
Outstanding. Jared, thank you so much. Sure appreciate you joining us. And guys, if you have any questions, reach out, call, text, email, let us know anything that we can do to help.